This is Preston Lewis, and this is my attending exercise number 4. And with that, I use from the PowerPoint the first model of finding trouble. And we back up a little bit so you can't see it. There we go. Very simple in design, but it does show it right here where we look. We'll start right here. Again, life is normal, and I have crossing the Sea of Galilee. And that's an event that perhaps happened throughout the day with ferry boats like this one perhaps, and there's a good chance that this was nothing out of the ordinary. So when we follow our plot line, the second point is, where do you see any hint of trouble unfolding in the story? Well, in the from Luke chapter 8, there's not a whole lot of detail in these few verses. So I'm going to venture to say is that when we look at right here what might have happened, I suspect that maybe they got on a boat that was only designed maybe to hold 10 people, where you have Jesus, his disciples, perhaps some passengers as well as the crew. Perhaps the boat was over capacity, and the water was riding pretty high on the outside of the boat to begin with. So that should be one of those things that maybe would introduce the trouble, because knowing that we can only take a certain amount of waves lapping against the side of the boat before the water will come in. Well, with that, that was the hint. Well, no doubt trouble occurred, and we all know the story with a great squall somewhere happened. Knowing that you're looking at a couple things here. They didn't have the benefit of Doppler radar back in the day, and we had several miles or to cross the Sea of Galilee, and so a lot of things could happen during the crossing. So I'm imagining midway into their crossing, a storm arises. Again, they are subject. Their speed is subject to the amount of wind they have pushing them across the lake, and also its direction will really change how fast they get to the other side. So in this case, we had no doubt wind and waves, and what I said earlier is that maybe they were overloaded at that point. So the wind began and the waves started, and they were coming over the sides of the boat. The text says that the boat was being swamped, which means that's present tense, not that it was about to become swamped. And when it's swamped is that step or that stage just before sinking. So you know that when the boat is swamped, it's going to sink. Well, this obviously caused some panic in these seasoned passengers. Of some, there were sailors, some there were fishermen who knew how to handle a boat and were not a novice, rather, in being on the ocean or the ocean, but the Sea of Galilee. They knew what to expect. They've been exposed to these things before. Well, we're going from the plot line with the squall breaks off into two things, two schools of thought here. What does the story motivate toward resolution? And does the help come from the outside? And do we learn something? Well, obviously, help does come in the form of Jesus right here. Jesus saves, as we know the story. He stood up and rebuked the wind, waves, and it was also a faith lesson for those who were on the boat. I imagine their disciples who were not listed by name, who approached Jesus, who cried out that we're going to drown. It sounds more of a Peter thing, but we have to throw that in as an extra. It may not have been him, but during this time, their lesson was about their own particular faith, how much they had, and it was weak, as Jesus said. They also learned about who Jesus was. Um, there was their teacher, their master, this man who stood up and did a miracle that was a little bit different. It was a departure from the other miracles that they had seen, maybe healing the lame by through a touch and restoring sight to the blind. This is totally different. This is where he is commanding the forces of nature to be still. Now, I want you to understand that this happened. The only one that could actually command nature was God Himself. And so here we are. We have Jesus Christ who had those personal miracles touching individual lives. That's great, and they appreciate that, of course. But this day, He actually commanded, like I said, the forces of nature, and nature changed as a result of just His spoken word. And the last part of it is what is the new or the resituated world that we can imagine at the end of the story? Well, at the end of the story, of course, the wind and the waves stopped. Um, Now, those gathered on the boat, I can imagine their personal faith, especially faith in Jesus Christ, increased tremendously. And with that, they became emboldened that they are now in the company of someone who is more powerful than anyone they've ever met before or could have ever imagined. So things have changed for the better as a result of this one miracle that they were able to witness. So there's my plot line. And for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phases of it, from the life when it's normal through all those challenges in the middle, and here at the end, what we can summarize and at the end of the story. So with that said, so thank you.